guys, we are trying a totally new setup here, so it's gonna be super awkward to talk into for me because it's not where I'm used to and not at all somewhere I can keep my hand on easily, which I like to do just for my own sanity. So I apologize for the awful angle, and I apologize for this being a super quick video, but it's safer setup, I think, a little bit less distracting, and yeah. Although when I turn tightly, I have to shift it forward, and it's all stupid because it's a long story. It's not the easiest setup to work with. But anyway, I wanted to check in really quick and give a really positive update video. So I wanted to thank everybody who's been supportive to my page and who's really helped me get through such a hard time in my life. It's been crazy lately with all of the stress going on with the court dates and everything, and I just really appreciate it. I mean, it took if you file for a restraining order, they give you 2 weeks out, they have a court date, they extend it once if they can't find the person, and then you have to show up in 2 more weeks, and then they dismiss it and you have to refile. So my advice to anybody getting frustrated or thinking, oh well, I'm not going to keep refiling, it takes 4 hours down at the courthouse each time at least if you write a long and lengthy truthful statement about everything. So a lot of people, and even my lawyer, said, well, why don't you just wait until they decide what charges they're pressing? And sorry about the noise, that was a tank lid slamming shut in the back. But anyways, it's one of those things well, why don't you just wait until they're for sure charged, or they for sure have charges that are going to bring him into custody, and that way you don't have to worry. He'll be escorted by the police when there's a restraining order hearing, and you'll know exactly where he is. It's not a wonder. But for me, I had to refile 3 separate times before they had finally found him. So it was a mess, and I mean, that right there is 6 separate court dates that I went to, excluding the initial filing, so 7 times down at the courthouse. And then finally, on the final last one, he was like, oh well, they found me, so he showed up and fought and was very nasty and awful. But with stuff that's waiting for the state, they can decide that the charges are pending, but they just need to wait for the state to send their official notarized copy of everything. So the state can take a month or 3 months to do that, and it has nothing to do with if they are going to press charges or not. It's just simply they're going to. But you gotta wait until that court date. So essentially for me, even though I went in, filed the police report right away, I let them have, they have the sexual assault kit, they have everything. They have everything. They went to my house, they took evidence. I mean, it was a big deal. Even with all that said and done, they need not just the signed over copy of the sexual assault kit from the hospital itself, but they need the state to have its official copy for them, which, whatever, I guess I do understand that, but it's a pain and it's scary. So for me, the only thing that gave me any protection was a restraining order until they actually get that notarized copy and can go forward with tougher charges than just domestic assault or domestic abuse. So my advice to you guys is, even if it seems tedious and dragging and wow, they've been looking for this guy for forever and they can't find him and it's ridiculous and they're not going to find him the next time, they haven't these 6 times, which is kind of what my attorney said, it's worth it, because that last time when they did find him, he showed up and he was aggressive and immediately had people break the order to say really awful things to me. And it's the only thing, as long as I'm waiting for the state to send its records over, it's the only thing that guarantees to give me protection. Yes, the police can be aware of what's going on and aware of the pending charges, but I really, really stress to you guys, if you're being honest and you're really afraid of something, afraid of anybody, no matter how they are related to, whether they're an ex, whether they're a family member, I don't care. If you're genuinely in fear for your life, it's worth showing up to 6, 7 needless court dates to have that 8th one that worked and went through, and that you actually, I got the 10-year restraining order because there was beyond reasonable proof and beyond a reasonable doubt that not only was I being honest, but that he had every intention to still commit manslaughter. And that was specifically read into my 10-year restraining order. He still has the intent to commit rape and manslaughter 1, 2, and 3, and homicide 1. Those were all read in and written into my specific restraining order, and that helps a lot when one of these things is going on. It just helps a lot when one of these things are going on, because as much as it might seem trivial and like, oh, well, it's just a piece of paper, like when he immediately had somebody, it was third-party contact breaking the restraining order, I could go in and that's immediately on record now, and they can defend me and help me. And because, like they told me, when the judge or a court commissioner, whichever you see, writes in, they still have proof that he still not did want to, but still has the intention to commit homicide 1, 2, 3, manslaughter 1, and sexual assault and rape 1. That's a huge deal, and they don't take that lightly, because most restraining orders don't say that. So if you really believe strongly and you know that you're at risk, go forward. And I don't care if you've been quiet for 10 years. Luckily, I wasn't involved with him for 10 years, and I got out sooner than later. Thank goodness. Too late, in my opinion. But even if you've been 10, 20 years with somebody who's hurting you, like I know a few situations where men and women have been trapped a long time with an abusive partner. If you're ready to put your foot down, protect yourself. And don't think, oh, well, is someone going to listen? Someone going to believe me? If you know you're being honest, there aren't two sides to every story. Because yes, in many cases there are. If it's a he said, she said, if there's just bitter battle about something, like someone wants to not pay child support or somebody wants more visitations. But when it's something as black and white as someone has a past of threatening entire families' lives and has other people with restraining orders against him because they're afraid that he's still going to kill them to this day. When it's that serious of a situation, your side is the truth because you've been quiet for years because you were afraid to speak a word of it. So if anything, your side is toning down the truth. I know for a fact I didn't say half of the things that he put me through and that he did to me because I'm still ashamed of what it is. So just know, don't sit there and think, oh, well, I don't want, the criticism that comes with speaking forward, especially on things like sexual assault or domestic violence. Because as much as it sucks, what's really sad is those topics are the topics where people really, really tend to rip people apart. Like, oh, well, how do you know if it was sexual assault? Like, well, I'm still in physical therapy now, and I have months more to go from the injuries I obtained and the trauma through it. And it still affected me on a daily basis. Like, that's not little or a joke or something to look past. It's serious. And when you've been quiet and felt humiliated and let them think that you were in the wrong, you're not going to come out and say every single detail right away just because you're free. You're not. You're going to be afraid, and you're going to not want to trash them because they made you believe to a point that this is your fault. And it's not your fault. To quick preface that, it isn't. None of this is your fault. But it's easy to believe it is. It's easy to think that it's your fault. And it's not at all. And I am very sorry again about this camera setup. I am absolutely getting a new way to attach it. It's attached by my front steering wheel, so it gets pushed forward and bumped around every time the steering wheel moves. So this is only a one-time video thing. So I really am sorry, not to switch topics, but I am very sorry. But all of that aside, all of the needless criticism towards this aside, it's worth it, and it's worth speaking your full truth if you're ready to and you can. But I know for me there's details I'll never speak because I can't, and I tried to be very blunt and very forward and say my truth, but I made sure it was only things I had evidence of, like DNA evidence, went to a hospital and named him, things that he has mentioned in our couples therapy that we had went to briefly, that he had specifically mentioned he had issues with and had done to me, like things that it's his own words, his notes, not mine, that he did to me. Like, I made sure that I didn't say an extra word, even if it was something awful or a terrible situation, because I don't want to be disbelieved. And I think it's funny that people disbelieve things like sexual assault, and they're like, oh, well, something, you have PTSD, something else bad. That's what he had one of his friends said. You have PTSD, so clearly you've had something bad happen before. Yes, but I didn't go at all. When the cops talked to me, I didn't press charges. I refused to speak up. I refused to go forward because I didn't want to be scrutinized and disbelieved. And I thought that was the worst thing I'd ever go through in my life, and I was wrong, because I met my ex, and the torture he put me through is way, way worse than anything I've ever been through. And I, again, in something that ruined my life to the point of gave me PTSD, it changed the way that I see things through the day, the way that I sleep, the way that I handle things. I handle fear and pain and rejection. I didn't feel the need to press charges then. I was dead set against it, and I still don't think that was the wrong choice for me at that time. And I think it's funny that when I finally, for the only time I've ever went forward, and the only time I've ever fought somebody in court, ever, like, oh, well, you've got an anxiety disorder, you've got PTSD, you've got something bad happened to you that, made you occasionally get flashbacks, or often, I shouldn't say occasionally, have night terrors. Okay, but I didn't speak up, and I didn't want help because I didn't want to be judged. But I know that this man is going to kill me if I didn't speak up, and he's going to kill my children, and that's a fact, because the last person who spoke up against him to this day feels like he's going to still kill her and his family, and he very well might. It's just she stayed far away from where he was and hidden, and that's smart, and I commend her for that. But she just kept herself protected and didn't fight against him, and I know that he is going to, if not kill me and my children, he will for sure kill the next girl, and then he will come back for me, and I'm going to put my foot down. So I always think of it this way: if you parked your car in a bad neighborhood because you had to go there, whether it was to look at a house that, your realtor, you're looking at a house that you have to sell, or to pick somebody up, a friend in need, whatever, and your car gets broken into, the first question isn't, oh, well, what street did you park on? That's a bad neighborhood. So why on earth should it matter what someone was wearing? And in my situation, I was literally in PJs in one of the situations. I came home and threw on PJs type thing, like, messy hair, no makeup on, whatever. Like, it wasn't a big deal. So for me, it wasn't a nice neighborhood in my own home, and bad shit happened. So it's like, why is that important? It wouldn't matter where it happened. It is true. It is true. And in my defense, look at court cases. If someone's guilty and they're not going to actually own up to and admit it, there's no truth to what they're saying. There isn't. And for me, I'm being so careful with what I talk about, because like I said, I hate when people say there's two sides to every story. So I'm not going to tell my side. I'm not going to sit there and talk about how in a 7-day week, there wasn't a day that went by that there wasn't absolutely awful verbal abuse, and there wasn't 3 days that went by that I wasn't physically assaulted. And now seeing the fact that I still have fluid buildup, and I have neurological issues, and I have to go into physical therapy 2 to 3 times a week at minimum to get craniosacral therapy, and they use the TENS unit on me. They use a bunch of different stuff to be sure that they can fix the head and neck issues. I've got my spine is basically straightened where there should be a bend in it from all of the repeated trauma. It's amazing the issues caused by them, and that's only scratching the surface. But I'm not going to sit there and talk about every little thing that happened, because I didn't go to the hospital every single time. But everything that I have proof of that he is admitted to, some of which joking around on blogs, which I have not posted because this is an ongoing investigation, he's admitted to the physical assault. He admitted it in a group, program type situation. He admitted it in so many separate situations. And it's like, from you admitting it to me going to the hospital and having concrete proof of it, and to everything the judge saw that the proof met the burden of it, for commissioner, judge, whatever, I'm going to state that and no more. But I please beg of you guys, if you're going through something, put your foot down and don't sit there and think, oh, well, I had love for them and I don't want to hurt them. They didn't care about hurting you. They didn't, obviously. And they're going to sit up there and lie and make it seem like, oh, well, you weren't there. Of course not. That's why I'm still patting the blow, because I feel bad. I tried to save this person because he told me, and things I'm not going to say. Things about his family that they did to him and put him through, and that I was the only person he could trust, basically, and that's why he would use his aggression towards me. I'm not going to sit there and slander his family and out his sexuality and in certain very explicit areas. I might talk about things we've both freely talked about, but nothing that I know we wouldn't want to talk about. He signed a lifetime contract BDSM-wise. I'm not pulling any of that stuff up in court. He literally signed it, fingerprinted it. Come on. Like, I could be being an asshole, but I'm not going to be, because I'm standing up for myself, because he's going to kill me. And now I'm talking about it black and white, and I'm not very emotional because I'm upset. Because at the very least, you would think human decency would look at the black and white proof, like, oh, there's literally a picture of that exact moment. Oh, and Christian in front of these 4 people admitted to it, and they all have the exact same story when they're not overhearing each other talk. Like, come on. Like, I get it if you're his friend or his parent, but to back up a rapist, wife-beating rapist who hurt his child, his under 1-year-old child at the time, who, again, he has no legal rights to. He didn't sign the birth certificate, no DNA, no child support was ever paid. But whatever, at the time he believed, or at least acted as that was his child. He hurt her and caused her damage. And has literally, my grandma had to go in and make a report on that. Come on. Like, as his parent, you should, as his adopted mother, who's the one who literally warned me about him, how can you let him stay at a property of yours, or take him to and from court, knowing what he did, warning me of what he did, knowing what he did to his ex before me, knowing how he was in court there, and how he was screaming and swearing at the court commissioner there. Come on. One of my kids becomes a rapist, I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to be there for them. I will be there for their victim. I'll sit on the other damn side, because that is disgusting. The fact that he has broken countless bones in my body, that I still, months after he's been gone, have fluid buildup and am having brain issues and literally have dizzy spells to the point of losing consciousness because of him, which he's admitted to. Come on. Like, why are you sitting behind him acting like, oh, well, he's my son? Your son is a horrible person. And I'm not saying the half of it, and you know it. I wrote to her and reached out to her when he caused the first miscarriage and first time I was pregnant with him. And how he kicked me in the stomach and how awful it was. She knew, because I reached out to her like, how the hell could you not have warned me? And I was upset and I was crying and just a wreck. And she knew about it, and she knows about that, yet she's still going to drive him down and still listen to him lie and just sit there. He didn't even defend himself. He just sat there and was mean. It's like, come on. At the end of the day, he's your adopted son, and your responsibility was to, for 18 years, feed him, clothe him, and do the best. And you yourself have said that you spoiled him, and you were the one who gave him everything, and he became a rotten person. You said that. I have proof of you saying that. So this is not hearsay. This is what you wrote out from your account. You know what he is, and you're sitting there and defending him, and you are partially responsible then, because you took him and helped him get through the shit with Diane, and you went there and helped him with everything else. I mean, and I'm saying her name because she said she was okay with it. I'm not going to give out a full name, but you went through everything with every other ex, with every other person, through drug abuse and using things in Florida where you ran to help him and then drove him right back to abuse her more once she got her life together, and she drug her right back into the lifestyle. Come on. You have ruined, or let him ruin, so many women's life, and he's pushing 30. At what point are you going to hold him accountable and realize you have, for 30 years, just about 29 years, you have been there for your son? That's 11 years more than you had to be. You adopted him. You raised him, fine. He disowned you on multiple accounts. He has spit in your face on multiple accounts and treated you like shit, and you know that he's the monster. You made him. You and your ex-husband, rest in peace, made him. And you're going to sit there and you're going to let him kill the next girl, if not me and his children. And you know I am being honest. You were in the courtroom. You listened. You knew you had nothing to say because you knew I was being truthful. And I choked up and I hesitated and I didn't say a lot many of the times I could have in that courtroom because I wasn't trying to slander him. I was trying to make points that he's still going to literally kill me and I need protection. That is it. It's not the trial. It's not, the pending charges haven't been set in stone yet. He hasn't been arrested yet. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut as the court commissioner warned him to do, and he didn't. Your son is what he is, and you know that, and you're letting him literally become worse of a monster because he was cocky as hell walking in there and you were smiling and being fine with him. You know what he did. You know he's literally caused you to lose one of your grandchildren. He has literally shaken and hurt the daughter he was talking about like it was his. He has terrified me as well as many other exes. He has brought drugs around children. He has been nothing but a bad person, and worst of all, he is a rapist, not only from me, but from people in the past. You know what he is, and as long as you keep condemning him, the next body on his freaking list of offenses, the next one's going to be a dead body, and it's on you too. Because you know, because we all talked to you. The last ex talked to you. One of the ones before that talked to you. He's admitted to a lot of stuff. He's been aggressive towards you. He's been aggressive towards your niece. And you need to come forward and stop letting him be a psycho. And stop letting him psychopathically drag everybody down. And you are literally padding him up to kill somebody because he knows you'll drag him out of it and you'll spend your money, your time, your gas. Why is someone you adopted into your life and gave everything to, when they became a bad person, why wouldn't you try to do your duty and put your foot down now where you should have when he was 15, 16 and not giving him everything? You could still help at least the next girl. Long story short on this, you could help to make sure that this person, this so-called son of yours, stops abusing women, stops being a rapist, and doesn't kill myself, my children, and for sure the next girl, if not the one before me too. So please, just actually make him own up for what he did. I'm not saying to sit there and give all the evidence of all the stuff I sent to you and all the proof you have of us talking about what he is and everything his ex said to you. I'm not asking you to do that and defend me. I'm asking you to not enable him and don't let him sit there and hurt the next person, because I'm really afraid he is literally going to snap. And I know what he said towards you aggressively. You know how he's been towards you. What if it's you that's the next person he loses his temper towards? If I wouldn't have been a physically strong person who was working out and dancing and doing things almost every night and very in shape in that sense, if I wasn't like that, he would have killed me with the amount of elbow throws and punches and the amount of objects I was hit in the head with the damage now. I'm literally being told at every single doctor's appointment, from my neurologist to the physical therapist, that I'm lucky to be alive, which I know I am, and I'm thankful for it. So it could be you. Just protect yourself, and to everybody else going through something like this, if you are speaking the truth, don't let what other people say bring you down. Don't let them standing up there defending their lies, defending themselves when they have nothing to defend because they are guilty. Don't let that make you back down. Or if people judge you, or if they send their harassing friends towards you, don't be silent, because you could end up like me, and you could end up in a worse place than I am. You could end up the person who didn't get to go and file that restraining order because you're paralyzed. And I don't want me being silent to ever cause somebody else to get hurt. So I'm going to loudly speak up. I'm not bashing anybody. I'm not saying anything wrong. I'm speaking evidence, proof, and I am begging anybody going through something like this, reach out to me even. Find me if you have to on Instagram. Do anything. Snapchat. It's Rainy Raylin. Message me. I will give you every helpline I can, every woman's resources, or man's. If you're a guy going through this, I will help if I can. But please don't be silent, because it almost killed me, and it's still reaping repercussions. God, I can't. I still am like feeling the repercussions from it. I was trying to say reaping, it didn't work. But I'm still dealing with everything from that, and I will be for years, according to the doctors, and I know that now, and that's scary. And if I would have stayed a little longer, I likely wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I love people, and I try to help people, and I love how the human mind is, and it's so intricate, and how people can go through such horrible things and come out good people still. It just baffles me. But not everybody can come out a good person. So please, please, please get evidence together, take pictures of bruises, remember dates specifically, because that's important to them, even if it's not to you. To me, when they started asking dates, I luckily had a lot of things time-stamped and dated. But to me, I was like, what? It happened 100 times. Why does that matter? There's over 100 separate events that I have dates of. Why do you, it does matter. So, to the courts, to the system, so get the doctor's notes, go in, whether you have to say to them that you're just, going in because, you sprained your ankle taking a walk. Get out of the house in a safe manner so you can actually go and get looked at and note down the abuse. Please, please, please call 911 and just pretend it's a pizza person. Do anything you have to keep yourself safe and keep a record of it. And I will do all I can to give advice, and through this, I'll document it. And there's so many people, even in law enforcement, which I love law enforcement, and I'm so thankful for the helpful people, especially at the police department and the attorneys I've been working with. They've been wonderful, so thank you. But there are a few officers that, because charges are pending, well, maybe don't, just don't, you don't need to go and talk about it to everybody, like doctor-wise or whatever. Like, you don't need to sit there and, vent to everybody or a counselor or whatever it may be, whether it's a trusted friend, a counselor. Like, you don't need to sit there and talk about it while investigation's going on. He did on court public record. He literally lied and perjured himself. And I talked about everything that had factual proof and that has been proven, and that's all I'll talk about for that reason, because it is ongoing. Nothing that I talk about isn't already proven and was proven in the restraining order and was on public record talked about. So I'm not going to be silent, because I know if I would have seen somebody out there talking about this, I might have felt more secure leaving sooner. So please, 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 even if you can't look it up on your own, I'm just some girl on Snapchat, just send me a message. And use a code word, anything you have to. Just anything. I will give you resources if I can, or direct you to them. I can't necessarily save you, but I can try to help, because I don't want anyone to go through what I'm going through. And I really hope that if his adopted mother ever sees this, or anybody sitting there defending him, I hope that they really realize that if they really loved him and really want to be a good role model and parent figure to my ex, they would make him be accountable for once, because that's in every message they sent me. That's why he's a bad person. He never had to be a man. Really? Then stop letting him be a child. Please, please, please stop enabling him. And everybody out there going through this, please don't stay, because I forever will feel the repercussions of that. Please do not stay. Just when you are ready, there are resources that can help you. And I will have a more lighthearted video up soon, I promise. But I wanted to at least rant a little bit. Love you guys.